What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, guys, so Matt was not able to jump on the town hall for this week, but he did say that he wanted to start answering questions in the town hall chat, and he went through and answered a bunch, and I could probably make a 5 biggest takeaways from this, but there's something that I just wanted to focus on at least first off, and then, obviously I will do a 5 biggest takeaways from the town hall as well, but here is the question and answer portion for people who may be wondering. Paul TRX, shout out to Paul, who's here on the our viewer on the channel, said, "Will there be a mini set for Rebellion like Riftwatchers?" And Matt said, "I have not been planning on one. It's a ton of work to release a new set, mini or not, and we're already working on the new reward card set." And then we'll probably need to get started on the next major set. But we'll see. Things can always change. And if the community would really like there to be a mini set, then we're open to it. So this is actually pretty huge news. Okay. And I have somewhat mixed feelings about it overall. But ultimately, I'm actually starting to see the good part of it. So let's just take this back for a second. Okay. If you go back to last year, and I apologize because I don't remember exactly what it was, and I dug around a little bit, but I still couldn't find it, and I wanted to jump in and make the video. So somebody please in the comments let me know what exactly it was in reference to. But there was a proposal last year, a somewhat contentious proposal, using some of the DAO funds or something like that, in which I remember Matt coming through and discussing on, the Peak D proposal page, or, the proposal post, saying that, like, in the future, they wanted to be able to do mini sets, right, in order to help replace some of the funding of the DAO. Again, it all just sounds super familiar. You guys will probably remember it better than I do. I don't know why. It's just on the tip of my tongue right now. But there was like that promise from the team that they would do that. Now, keep in mind, this was before September of 2023, right? So it was probably a year ago-ish at this time. And everything changed after September, right? When there was a CEO change, and obviously the team scaled down even more from a resource perspective. But it's a little disappointing in that perspective, right? Now, again, maybe we can dive a little bit deeper once I'm able to uncover what it was, but that was the first thing that came to mind was, they said that they were going to use the mini set as a way to like replenish the DAO funds, and now they're not, right? Which kind of sucks, right? Because that's, you just never want to have that on record and then, a pivot away from it. That being said, let's just take a neutral lens towards this now. Let's say you are a brand new player coming in, or let's just wipe the slate clean following what happened in September. And again, this is not me trying to throw shade or hold, whatever responsible. Granted, I mean, there has to be some accountability. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, I do think the circumstances changed, obviously significantly, following the CEO change last year in September. So looking at this with a blank slate, what does this mean for us now? Well, it actually makes Rebellion even more valuable in a way in terms of what the future holds. And what I mean by that is it makes it more accessible for newer players. Maybe valuable was not the right word. Although I think players will start to value the Rebellion cards that they have because of the fact that it's going to be just that, right? There's no mini set that's going to come in and be like, 40 additional cards, which if you look at, I don't know what the stats are for for Dice and Untamed, but for Riftwatchers and Chaos Legion, it added 50% more cards, right? There's 80 or 90 something cards in Chaos Legion, and then Riftwatchers came in with like another 40. So you're not going to be getting an inflation of cards once again through that. But more importantly, and this is why I'm talking about the accessibility part, is that for people that want to be competitive at the top, well, when Riftwatchers came out, it was like several $1,000s, right? And so even though Chaos Legion was super overprinted and the cards were cheaper, if you wanted to be competitive, well, you had to buy in Riftwatchers. And Riftwatchers was not just held its value well, at least during the time, right? Because it was priced in SPS at market value versus DEC. But also, it just added on top of the cost, right? People went in heavy on Chaos Legion day one, spent 10 grand, and then all of a sudden here comes Rift Watchers. You got to spend another 5 to 6, 8 grand, whatever it was early on. And many people just decided to not bother, myself included, right? Because I'm just like, yeah, I can't do like a core set and a mini set. Like, this is getting crazy. And you know, all the asset prices are tanking. This is just kind of crazy. So you look at it now with what the expectations are, and it's just like, all right, well, how will the meta change, right? We know that from an accessibility point, it's going to be good because now there won't be this added cost coming in. But what they can do, essentially, is maybe throw in a bunch of extra reward cards. And what I mean by that is, you know, the Soulbound reward cards, well, let's just put it this way. The reward cards for Chaos Legion were also massively overprinted, not just from like an individual card standpoint, but we had so many reward cards. We had a first set that was the Jin Oshana set. Then you had a second set, which was the what's that called? Jared Scar set, right? And even though that was cut short, there was still so many printed. And then after that, they still had the Soulbound reward set, which has been going on for almost the last year and a half, right? January of last year. So there's just so many reward cards that it just became, I mean, it's fun for the meta, right? And it's cool to collect all these different cards, a lot of which that I use, right? And I'm talking about like reward cards all across the board. But if the focus now becomes on, all right, there's just going to be one core set, and then there's going to be the reward set, which might be slightly bigger than it was in the past. And again, not compared to Chaos Legion and the 3 different sets. I'm just saying it could be slightly bigger than like the Soulbound reward cards that we have right now. So you add in, I mean, even just like an additional card per element, right? And that's like 7 additional cards with, what's that called? With neutral being included. So it makes it interesting. It makes it fun. You can add a little bit there without having to do a different, you know, from a card design perspective. I don't know how much. I mean, of course, it's always going to be more, right? If you're doing more cards, it's going to be more work. But then you don't have to design the whole like logo and Riftwatcher token and you know, sales page and all that if they decide not to go that route, right? And it looks like they're deciding that way. So I'm saying if the community decides not to go that route, so. As I was saying, like in a way, it makes it more accessible. The meta will be maybe somewhat simplified, but the other part of this too is that they can get a little bit more creative with the what's that called? The promo cards. And I actually think that because of this, they'll probably end up being much more consistent with the promo cards. We got one in April. I think it's fair to expect one again around July or maybe August if they're planning to do them quarterly. In fact, Matt even discusses that here. Oh, here I go again saying why all over the place. Sorry about that. But overall, like I'm looking at this and thinking to myself, I think it's going to be a net positive. Now, I'm gonna flip out to the tokenomics for a second. I won't pull it up here, but one of the things that I was hopeful for, and we'll close out with this, one of the things that I was hopeful for with a mini set is that it would demolish vouchers, right? Because at least there'd be another demand. But if we're not going to get Rift Watchers, or whatever the Rift Watcher set would be, the mini set, I should say, if we're not going to get that, then, you know, everything needs to flow back into Rebellion. And I do think because of the fact that there's not going to be a mini set, we probably will see many folks start to pick up Rebellion over time, or as it gets a little bit closer to the end of the set, right? We're almost at the halfway point, right? There's a little bit over 5 million packs left for Rebellion. So I don't think it's going to be anything crazy right now. I think many people like myself are waiting for the dust to settle. And actually the next video, or one of the next videos that I'll make, is kind of like a Rebellion timeline, something that I am thinking through in my head in terms of when I might strike and actually buy Rebellion cards. I know I keep saying that I will and then I don't, but I want to give you guys my mindset into why I'm kind of just hanging on, because I think there are still several question marks outside of the fact that we know that there's an end date, right? But overall, that's kind of where my head is at on this. I thought it was relatively big news for us to not be having this, but I understand where the team's at. I know that they're trying to work with what they can do, and if it's not economically viable for them, then I actually think going with promo cards and having that change the meta and adjust the meta on a regular basis will be fun. And here's the thing, and I know it probably is going to be a lot of work for the team, and they'll probably shy away from it. Matt said, quarterly. I still think it would be fun if they did monthly, right? Now, again, that's more work, but you think about like monthly between now and when the next core set comes out, which will probably be like June, July of next year. That's a year, right? So it'd be like 12 cards that they would have to make. Maybe they could pull some out of the reward cards if they really wanted to. And then you have fun ways to engage with the community by offering different things. Now, and I would be totally in favor of the DAO actually covering a lot of the costs for this, because I think they could use it as a way to tweak the ecosystem, right? And now I know I'm getting totally off base here, and this should have been a separate video, but since I'm already on it, let me just finish my thought, and then we'll close out. For example, right, if you have 12 packs, or 12 cards over the next 12 months, it's like 1 month you could be like, you got to burn X amount of cards, or maybe you got to burn X amount of packs, right? Keep in mind, the team has already been paid for all the work that needs to be done. The next card is just like, you got to buy a bunch of, or you got to spend a bunch of vouchers. So all of a sudden we're burning a ton of vouchers, right? Maybe something for the DAO to get reimbursed is this one's sold for DEC, and that DEC all goes to the DAO. Or better yet, my favorite would be this is sold for SPS. So the DAO actually starts collecting SPS once again, right? It pays the team, right, with some of the stable coins that it has, and then it sucks up the SPS off the marketplace by saying like, hey, it's 50 SPS per BCX. And so a lot of people are just like, oh, I really want one SPS. And again, whatever, that price might be too high, but you get my point, right? Where it's just like, all of a sudden people start paying in SPS, the DAO starts collecting SPS. So it's like letting go of stable coins, picking up SPS, which is good for the DAO because of the upside of SPS, and good for the economy because then you're able to reduce the circulating liquid supply, lock that up in the DAO, secure rewards for the future when the distribution phase ends, right? So there's a bunch of different ways that we could go about this. Again, I'm off on a tangent here. You could probably tell that I'm excited about this, and I think that there's a lot of different directions that they can go. But overall, taking it back to what this video was supposed to be about, there's no mini set, at least as of right now. My question to you, and feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below, is do you want one? And are you willing to pay the team to develop one? And what I mean by that is not just from your pocket, but from the DAO in order to help develop one in the future. So that is all I have for you guys in this video. I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.